Hello, and welcome to Reinventing Mental Health, where we're exploring root causes for mental health and natural solutions. Today, we have with us our friend, Shelly Larson, who runs an oxygen clinic nearby, and it's called Natural O3. And we have been working with Shelly with a few clients seeking oxygen therapies for different types of disorders. So, Shelly, can you tell us a little bit about what are oxygen therapies, like ozone therapy and HBOT or hyperbaric oxygen, and how do they work to support brain health and mental well-being?
Hi, yes, thank you. High dose ozone and ozone therapies and various forms of ozone help in bringing oxygen to the body. And then also, when you're dealing with ozone and working with ozone, you're going to also get that extra molecule of O that is really reactive and causing other great things in the body. In addition, there is therapies that are just oxygen alone. And one example of that is the hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And that's also a good form of delivery of oxygen to the body through high pressured systems and doing lots of different therapies with that. So both are really great ways to get oxygen into the body so that the body can heal and viruses and cancers and various dysfunctions of the body don't do well in an oxygen rich environment. So that oxygen rich environment really helps for healing.
And what oxygen therapies do you specialize in?
So I specialize in specifically ozone therapies, and we have ozone where we put it inside the veins. We have ozone where we can put in other areas like the brain via the ears. Ozone is a special gas that can travel through walls of the body, cells of the body, and can then connect with things inside the body like the cells to help stimulate the functions to start working. And so we do just various different types of ozone therapies.
Okay. So, how does ozone therapy, like the IV ozone and ear insufflation, enhance oxygen utilization in the brain? And what mental health benefits might this provide for conditions like anxiety or depression?
That is a really good question. So both the IV ozone and the ear insufflation are systemic routes in the sense of when you're doing an IV, it's going to go systemically throughout the body. So it can touch on the brain, it can touch on the heart, it can touch on the circulatory system and the veins. Wherever there is a cell that's not working on a really high functioning level, ozone is drawn to that because ozone is a third molecule of oxygen and it's drawn to things that are out of balance in the body. So with that, when we're putting ozone in either into the ears for the brain or into the vessels to try to balance the brain or other parts of the body, it's going to be drawn because it's an ion that is just going to be drawn to those different parts that are out of balance. So that's how that therapy will work. It will be drawn to those areas that are out of balance and help balance them.
Awesome. Okay. What does current research say about ozone therapy's antimicrobial properties and its potential to treat chronic infections like Lyme disease, which often contribute to mental health symptoms like brain fog and fatigue?
So the benefits of ozone is that it is antimicrobial. If you put any type of oxygen, and especially the reactive oxygen of ozone, onto a virus or a bacteria, it will instantly kill it. So the purpose of putting ozone in the body is for it to get as close as possible as those infections, because once it reaches those infections, it will completely kill and annihilate those antimicrobial things.
That's amazing. Okay, so we work with a lot of clients that have PANS and PANDAS, and we know that that is neuroinflammation that's from infections that have made it to the brain. So, how might oxygen therapies reduce the brain inflammation and improve neuropsychiatric symptoms like the OCD and anxiety that come with PANS or PANDAS?
So what's really great about ozone therapy is that its mechanism of work how it works is it's going to go into the body and attach to cells and help bring them back to balance. Those cells a lot of times are out of balance because of toxins that are residing on the cellular wall. So ozone is a really reactive molecule, and so when it comes across something that's adhering to the cell that shouldn't be there, what ozone does is it attacks that molecule and kind of knocks it out of the way, and those removing those toxins off of the cell wall will help those cells to start functioning again. And then the cell can start coming back to balance. And when our cells are in balance, then our body is able to heal itself from those long-term infections, from those long-term inflammation. Ozone therapy in the body also stimulates cytokine proliferation. It starts to come out of cells and going through the body and decreasing inflammation, decreasing microbes that are present in the body. And so with the anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial effects of ozone circulating through the blood and circulating through the brain, the result will be less of the problems that are causing the side effects of the OCD and the mechanisms. We're trying to get to the root cause of what's making these symptoms by taking out the inflammation and taking out the microbes.
Right. And we do a lot of supportive things like change the diet, do detoxification, and we can use vitamins and minerals while supporting people through that process. So what are the latest studies showing about oxygen therapies for things like long COVID? We're seeing that a lot in our clinic, particularly improving the neurocognitive symptoms that can include brain fog, but also things like pain in the arms and the legs. And how does it compare to other treatments?
So that's a really good question. I've had some long COVID clients that have come to our clinic, and they have tried ozone, and then they tried hyperbaric treatments, and then they chose kind of ozone over hyperbaric because one, hyperbaric treatment can be a really good treatment for certain types of things. It's not as strong when you're dealing with antimicrobial and antiviral. When you're dealing with those type of things like COVID, which is a virus, then it's better to kind of get a more reactive molecule. And ozone is a real reactive molecule. It's going to go in and sort of modulate the immune system in a stronger fashion and also be antimicrobial in a stronger fashion. And my client that does have long COVID that I'm currently working with, she was actually bedridden last fall, wasn't able to function. She wasn't able to take her kids to practices and school events. She was really struggling. And through doing the high dose ozone once a month, and then the saunas, ozone saunas, far infrared ozone saunas, and the detox therapies that we do, and the sinus and the ear insufflations, she's been able to decrease her brain fog, have energy. She, last month she packed up her family. They went on a vacation. Oh, wow. She wasn't driving. She was scared to drive. Now she's driving again, taking her kids around. She's able to prepare meals. I think her only problem now is that she tries to do too much, and then now she's tired from doing too much, but that's a good problem to have. She's able to do the things that she's, wants to do to help with her family.
How long did that take for her, and how many treatments was that?
So she started with me last October, and then she decided to try the hyperbaric too. And she did a couple, like 5 sessions of the hyperbaric through like November and December, and just really didn't get the results that one treatment gave her in October. So then in January, she came and signed up with us, and she's been doing 1 high dose treatment a month since January, and has progressively, or actually she does 2 treatments a month, and has progressively gotten better, and just is really excited about the improvements that she's experiencing.
So with the long COVID, are you recommending, just once or twice a month, or would there be faster benefits for going more frequently?
With someone who's having kind of a chronic disease state, you do want to go at their pace.
Okay.
And so I would say you would start with a smaller dose. Now, even when she first started, because she felt like she was really sensitive, and she could, if she was trying to detox too quickly, she might even get worse. So we started her, so we do a high dose ozone therapy, which is up to 10 passes where you're pulling the blood in and out up to 10 times. We started her with 2.
Okay.
And then we worked up to 3, and then we
Mhm.
worked up to 5. And at this point, she's in her 4th month of doing 5 passes. And I think next month she's probably going to be more interested in going to a 10 pass where she comes in once a month for that. So
Okay.
you kind of work up slow, but it depends on the person. If they're feeling good results and they feel comfortable with that, they're not going to have a bad Herxheimer reaction
Mhm.
and detox too quickly, then we go a little quicker. I do have clients that have chronic Lyme disease that come in once a month and do a 10 pass every month. I've had clients that have had cancer and they're coming in once a week. So
Okay.
yeah,
So it's very person to
it's
person.
person to person,
Okay.
how comfortable they are, and then how they respond to the therapy.
Okay. So, have you ever done any work with people with traumatic brain injuries? And if so, how does oxygen affect traumatic brain injury? And what does that mean for recovery?
I have not actually worked with anyone with traumatic brain injury, acutely. Chronic injuries,
Mhm.
yes. And what ozone in general will do for that is it's going to supply oxygen to the brain,
Mhm.
obviously, so that it can heal. And I think hyperbaric oxygen therapy is also really good for that. And it's just if you have the commitment to be able to do those extensive treatments over
Mhm.
a period of time, it can be therapeutic. With high dose ozone, I think it's about providing oxygen and providing balance to the cells in the brain.
Right.
The brain has an amazing potential, as the rest of the body does, of healing things like traumas and healing ischemic changes. And so any amount of oxygen you can provide to that
Mhm.
is just going to be good for the brain.
Yeah, a lot of what we used to believe about the brain not being able to heal, we've actually learned in the past 10 to 20 years that that just isn't true. The brain
Oh,
is elastic and it can heal just as much as the body can.
agreed. Definitely can
Mhm.
improve neuroplasticity with oxygen therapy and balancing those cells in the brain for sure.
Okay. So, are there any specific protocols that show promise for mental health conditions specifically?
It depends kind of on the individual. I mean, just as we were talking earlier about different people can manage and handle a little bit more, depends on how toxic the person is. A lot of these diseases that you're seeing
Mhm.
with mental diseases have a lot of toxic burden,
Absolutely.
and that we have to determine, one, if their detox pathways are going to be open enough to pull
Mhm.
those toxins in a quick fashion, or if we're going to need to go a little slower and do a lot of the liver detoxing and things like that to make sure those pathways are open. So when we start pulling heavy metals and we start pulling things off
Mhm.
those cells, that we're not going to bog those down.
Mhm.
So, it's individual.
Okay, so what you're talking about, like the detox pathways. So, are you familiar with like MTHFR and COMT and all of those things, and how those could be impacting someone's detox pathways while going through this?
Yes, and I am, and those are things like I think we would work together with
Mhm.
trying to figure that stuff out.
Okay.
And I think you have to be really careful when people do have MTHFR and not to give them certain B vitamins and things like that, and be very
Yeah,
careful
they can
with.
be very sensitive.
Yes, they can be very sensitive, go very slow, and those things can improve once you've kind of detoxed a little bit. But
Mhm.
I think that we would need to work kind of closely with those folks.
Okay.
But as far that's for the supplement with stuff. Now, if you wanted to do the detox with, like the detox ion cell cleanse foot bath,
Mhm.
and things like that, I think you'd be okay with those folks. It's just as far as being careful with what supplements you're giving them or what IV nutrition you're giving
Mhm.
people that are sensitive to those things.
Yeah. So, what's the science behind ozone's ability to cross the blood brain barrier? And how might this directly impact mental health outcomes in conditions like Lyme, PANS, and things like Epstein Barr?
Well, the science behind ozone and how it works is that it is a gas.
Mhm.
So therefore it can cross into other areas of the body besides just the channels of the blood or the
Mhm.
channels of the tissue. It when you put like for example, when you put ozone into the ears,
Mhm.
it will cross through the tympanic membrane and into the brain because it is a gas that is kind of like a ghost going through a door. I mean,
Mhm.
it can go anywhere it needs to, and
Mhm.
because it's that really reactive molecule that is drawn to imbalances, it's
Mhm.
going to, if it sees something in the brain or feels the negative pull of that chemical reaction where it's getting pulled into there, it's because something's off balance there. And
Right.
so it's going to be drawn into the brain very easily, so that it can then affect. That's why it's good for people with anxiety and brain fog,
Mhm.
and people who have ADHD and things like that, because sometimes there's a chemical imbalance in the brain. And so
Mhm.
this can very well impact that in a very short period of time just by doing the ear insufflations.
So while talking about ear insufflations, that can sound kind of scary to some people. So what exactly does that feel like to the individual who's going through it?
That's a good question. So basically, you know the stethoscopes that you see doctors sometimes
Mhm.
wearing. So you put one of those kind of like that looks similar to that into the ears, but it's hollow. Instead of being able to hear with it, you can just run the ozone gas through it, and it's hollow, and it just sets on the outside of the ears. It doesn't have to be in tight. And then you turn it on, and when you turn it on, it feels kind of warm, and you feel kind of a whooshing sound. We did this at an event outside once, and we had one child he was on the spectrum, and
Mhm.
he commented that it made him feel relaxed because it was kind of like a meditative state of
Okay.
just a kind of a white noise going in the background. And so that's what it feels like. It feels warm, it feels good. It doesn't, there's no pain whatsoever. It just feels really nice and relaxing. And you can do it for like 6 minutes is where it's a 6 minute therapy or a 5 minute therapy.
Okay.
And so, and my youngest clients that I've done and utilized that with is 2.
Okay.
So a 2-year-old can, if a 2-year-old can sit still, that's the biggest issue.
Right.
Then a 2-year-old can have that therapy.
Now, same with the 10 pass and the 5 pass and all of that you were talking about, where you're pumping the blood out and then pumping it back in. What does that process feel like for the individual? What are they experiencing while the treatment is happening?
Yeah. So what it is just a simple IV,
Mhm.
just like you would get if you went to the hospital or
Mhm.
if you were getting an IV nutrition. And so it's just a one little stick in the arm. And then they would just sit and relax. You can even meditate or read a book, watch something on your phone, because really that's all you're going to do is just sit in a comfy chair and have an IV. Now, while they're doing that sitting,
Mhm.
and I'm going to be just next to them, pulling blood up into a special hyperbaric pressurized machine
Mhm.
that pulls the blood up very quickly, as to then inject the ozone into the blood
Mhm.
quickly, get the ozone back into the body as quick as possible, because that ozone, you want to get it when it's really reactive and
Mhm.
nice and fresh. And so basically they won't really feel anything
Okay.
other than just that initial stick of the IV. It's a really simple process for them,
Mhm.
and it's pretty comfortable.
Okay.
Once people have a lot of anxiety, I think, first thinking about it, but then when they've done it, they're like, oh, okay, that's it. Okay.
Are there any contraindications to doing oxygen therapy?
So oxygen therapy in general, there really isn't. Ozone in general, there really isn't, except like for doing ozone in the blood, for example,
Mhm.
you need to be able to give a blood thinner called heparin. And so the person doesn't need to have any type of hemolytic disease of some sort,
Okay.
like an anemia or a severe hemolytic disease. Other than that, because we do have to thin the blood a little bit in order to do the process. Other than that, there really isn't any contraindications for ozone.
Okay.
Um, it's really just activated oxygen therapy.
Are there any current research studies that you're watching and you're hoping for some stunning results to come out this year?
That's a really good question. I mean, there is a lot of research already done all over the world
Mhm.
with ozone therapy. Dr. Bacci was an Italian physician who's done extensive research, and he's all over NIH.
Okay.
The PubMed. And then Dr. Schallenberger and Dr. Rowan and Dr. Robbins, they are constantly doing research in the United States. Dr. Lahadny did extensive researches in the 90s to determine how many exactly passes you should do with a hyperbaric 10 pass ozone machine called the Zotzman. So there has been extensive research, recent research in the United States, but before that, hundreds of like over 100 years of research from all over the world.
That's amazing.
Because it's been used all over the world for a long time.
Good. So if people are interested in learning more about you and how to contact you, what information can we share with them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So our website is naturo3.com. And our Facebook page is Naturo3 Ozone Clinic. We have also Instagram and things like that, and that's naturo3.tx. And I'm sure you're going to put the links below.
Yes, all the links will be below. So thank you so much for joining us today on Reinventing Mental Health. Please like and share and follow, and keep watching us for more information.